Are you ready? Are you ready? It's time now to get the take on the news from the left, right, and middle. And with us today is, on the left, is award-winning journalist Karen Hunter, and on the right from Washington is attorney Horace Cooper. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
All right. I always look
birthday.
forward to this. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But that's nothing to argue about. Okay, so let's get to some topics here. Let's talk about, of course, this tragic massacre at the Washington Navy Yard. 12 people were killed, including the shooter, making 13. I want to start with this very simple question. What's the fundamental issue here? Is this revisiting gun reform? Is this about security on our military? Is this about mental illness? Horace, let me start with you. Where's the fundamental issue here?
Well, I do think that the storyline reveals that mental illness is a serious problem and is probably the best explanation for the tragedy that happened here. This is the gun control capital of America, and if that doesn't work here to prevent this kind of thing, then we really need to look at some of the ancillary issues. And the mental illness problem, I think, has been associated with a number of shootings, and we need to be careful about what we're doing with policy to make sure that we are able to help people who have these kinds of troubles.
Yeah, you can't legislate crazy. I mean, it's really tough to predict it. It's tough to stave it off, So at the end of the day, I actually fundamentally agree with what Horace just said, because it is tragic, and it's nothing we can do to prevent somebody. The man had a gun. He was in the military. He had a gun legally. We saw that with the shooting with those kids in Connecticut. His mother's guns were legal. You just can't figure out what a crazy person's going to do.
And so does this then behoove us to revisit gun reform? Is this the event that it's going to take to bring about gun reform legislation?
And unfortunately, Debbie, this is going to happen again, and there's nothing we can do about it. No amount of reform is going to prevent this. We can do like England. No one can get guns. Maybe no one should have guns, and maybe that'll be. But criminals are going to find a way. People who want to do something will find a way to do what it is they want to do. Trust me, folks have gotten out of prison under crazy circumstances. You will find a way to do what you want to do.
All right. I imagine you agree with that, right?
I agree that there's no gun reform issue here, and we can even look at the UK as an example. They had an event last year where a man took a sword and went out to a public area and chopped and killed as many people as he could. The idea that we can create this totally safe world where nothing ever happens, that's an ideal that's actually dangerous, and a government that's capable of doing that is a government that's capable of controlling too much in our lives.
All right, I know I'm supposed to stay in the middle, but I have to just add
You
in.
are
Okay, we can't create a totally safe environment, but we sure can do something about things that are avoidable, which leads me to my next topic that I would love to hear your thoughts on, and that is George Zimmerman. He remains in the news. Of course, we reported this domestic violence incident, alleged incident, about a week ago, and now we find out that the chief of police of Lake Mary has called him a threat to public safety. So here's the question, and I want to start with you, Karen. Why is he free, and why is he still able to carry guns?
Ask those women on that jury why he's free. They heard the same information you and I did and came to a completely different conclusion than I would have come to. I knew that man killed that boy that night, and he should be alive. He should have been convicted of something, and they acquitted him. He should not be out. His wife knew it. The attorneys knew it. He had a history. We heard everything about Trayvon Martin, but nothing about George Zimmerman's track record of domestic violence before this, of abusing police before this. It couldn't be brought in, right? So that was inadmissible. But obviously, this man has a problem. Again, he's crazy. All right, and he should not be out in public with a gun. They gave him his gun back, too. And he's been stopped a couple times, not arrested, because for some reason, the cops don't want to even bring him in anymore. I don't even understand this. This is ridiculous.
Horace?
Okay. There's so much in that that's false. The way trials work is relevant information is presented to the jury, not irrelevant information. If Mr. Zimmerman had engaged in some encounters with the police in the last 6 months up to that point, it would have been relevant to bring in. Old information years ago is completely irrelevant. The police chief, the sheriff, police detective, these are not people that are capable of making assertions about the psychiatric status of Mr. Zimmerman, and it is dangerous when they go forward with making these kinds of pronouncements. He has actually not been found guilty of breaking any law. He has actually been found a person of upstanding responsibilities.
Horace, if we can
in this whole
agree
encounter.
that if George Zimmerman were an African American and Trayvon Martin were a white man, that would have gone a completely different way. If you think it would have gone exactly the same way, do you think it would have gone exactly the same way?
We cannot agree, because one of the things we can't agree on is that Zimmerman was white. Zimmerman is not white. Not only is he not white, one of his great-grandparents, and he's not technically white. He is not technically white. And one of his great-grandparents is black. The whole idea that this registered
what are we doing,
Democrat
a 132nd rule
proudly...
All right, well, that's so ridiculous. It's not even, to have a discussion
and
about.
Let me take the opportunity to jump in. Maybe we can squeeze in one more topic before it's time to go. And of course, we just reported about the story of the University of Alabama. Two black girls who were very qualified didn't get into an all-white sorority. Now the president of the university has come out and said that there has to be fair practices in admission. I'm going to start with you, Horace, very briefly. Should sororities and fraternities be forced to accept any members, any people that they don't want to accept?
No private organization or group should ever be forced to take people on, and a government that's powerful enough to do that is a government to pick who you marry, who you love, who you live with. We don't need government that big.
He's actually fundamentally right. However, we're talking about Alabama. We're talking about Alabama, Montgomery bus boycott. 4 little girls got bombed 50 years ago in Alabama. It has a racial history that needs to be visited, which is what we're doing now. So I'm happy that the president of the college came out and said what was said, and that they're now being forced to open their doors to people. I wouldn't want to be a part of their sorority, to be honest with you, but I want the right to pledge if I want to.
Always like the option. All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. Horace Cooper from Washington, D.C., Karen Hunter right here in New York. Thank you to both of you. We'll see you next week.
Next week.
Thank you.
And this is Arise America.